Okay, guys. So, welcome once again, everyone. We'll give more shout outs to all those who have joined shortly.
Hey,
But hello,
hi.
Dr. Renner. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Um,
Hello.
hello, everyone. So today we're going to be discussing something that's important to every one of us, every person on this live, which is quality nutrition. And as you know, due to the economic situation in the country, a lot of people are changing their purchasing habits. So some of the things we would normally go for before because maybe funds, funds. Now, funds going down. So people are changing their purchasing habits and it's causing people to compromise on a lot of things, including nutrition. So this is a problem, and we've noticed this. And Dano Milk decided to launch an educational campaign to let people know why it's important to not compromise on your nutrition. That is the last thing you should think about compromising on. But before we continue, as I started earlier, I just wanted to give a shout out to all of the Moms Corner moms that are here on the live Facebook group, Moms Corner, that has over 70K moms, and the moms are doing such a great job being part of the community, making it lively, sharing great tips for mothers, soon to be moms, new moms, old moms, middle moms. So if you're a mom's corner mom, just drop a heart, give us a heart. Is this the heart? Yes, give us a heart in the comments below. And if you're hearing about Mom's Corner for the first time, this is your chance to join. So send us a request here on Facebook and we'll add you to the group. And I'm sorry, not sorry. As the name implies, Mom's Corner, it's not a group for men, it's a group for moms. Thank you for understanding. So well, let's just get down to the reason why we are here. Today the topic we're discussing is the role of quality nutrition for kids' cognitive and physical development. So I would like to introduce our speaker on the subject today, who is the president and leading representative of the constituency members. Dr. Renner Ayodele, also known as the noisy Niger pediatrician. You're welcome to this live, Dr. Renner.
Thank
So
you so
please,
much
let's
for
get
having
it
me.
started. We're honored to have you. So let's get started on the role of quality nutrition for kids' cognitive and physical development. We want to start with what that is, but first, can you tell us a little bit about malnutrition,
Okay.
since that will bring us back here?
Okay.
Yes,
So
and
hi
why
people.
what it causes?
Yeah. So hello
Yes.
everyone here. Hello people of Mom's Corner. I'm going to start Dad's Corner actually at some point because we also need our own corner. So thank you so much, Daniel Nigeria, for having me on. It's like such a full circle moment because we grew up with Dano, and so for Dano to have me back to be talking about
Right.
Dano, yes, talking about Dano milk. I mean, that's absolutely amazing. So, am I clear? Can you hear me clearly? Fantastic. So malnutrition. Malnutrition is a very important topic because, as we know, the only way in which children grow and develop adequately is through nutrition, meaning that a child who is not having adequate nutrition is not going to grow well. And the reality is that the essence of childhood is growth and development, meaning that if a child loses that opportunity in childhood to grow and develop, then that is really a problem. So at the end of the day, you ask yourself, so what essence does that child's life have? If at the end of the day, the simple reason why the child is a child is for growth and development, and that's not even being achieved. So when we talk about malnutrition, we are saying that a child, especially undernutrition, so malnutrition can be undernutrition or overnutrition. With overnutrition, the child
Okay.
is obese, the child is overweight, the child has excess calories or excess energy intake for their level of activity. But while that is one end of the spectrum, what we're trying to focus on today is undernutrition. And with undernutrition, it is a situation in which a child is not consuming enough calories or enough protein or enough vitamins and minerals for them to grow and develop adequately. So let me
Okay.
just take that again. With undernutrition, the child is not consuming enough calories, enough protein, or enough vitamins and minerals for them to grow and develop properly. And when we talk about development, it's not just physical development, because while we look at it and say that, oh, okay, child, yes, a child is growing, the most important thing that we focus on for the child's growth is the growth of the brain, because it is the
Okay.
brain that is going to translate everything that the child is learning into development, because the child is going to be able to pick up information, pick up details, and then learn. And so without adequate brain growth, the child is not going to be able to develop properly. And so that is where the cognitive aspect of things comes in, which I think we're going to take up later.
Okay. Okay. So, speaking of brain development, are there levels to this brain development in children depending on their age? And can you talk to us about that and how maybe it affects their ability to learn things here?
Yes. So there are actually stages of brain growth and development. And the reality is that brain growth and development doesn't start when the child is born. It starts when the child is conceived. So we say something about the first 1,000 days of life. And the first 1,000 days of life are the time from the child when the child is conceived up until the time when the child turns 2 years of age. By the time the child turns 2 years of age, the child's brain has reached about 70% of the size that it is going to be into the child's adulthood. Meaning that between it actually finally reaches the full adult size, brain size, somewhere around 7 years old. But that doesn't even mean that the brain actually stops developing. The brain actually still continues. Exactly. So that means that if a child hits 7 years old, and the brain size has not reached what its actual adult potential should be, that's the end. And this information is
Oh,
important
wow.
because this information is very important because the number of brain cells between when the child is born and when they grow old and die is constant. Maybe one or two new ones are
Oh,
formed. So what actually changes in terms of the number, what changes in the size of the brain is not the number of brain cells, it is the size of the brain cells. And the only way in which brain cells are going
okay.
to increase in size is through good nutrition. Is through good nutrition. So without good nutrition, brain cells that are supposed to be this big will be this big, even when the child reaches 7 years of
Hmm.
age. So meaning that all those connections, all the information that the brain cells are supposed to be transmitting back and forth at rapid rates are not going to be able to do so because they simply haven't achieved the size that they are supposed to have. In the womb, the brain
Interesting.
undergoes neurulation. Sorry, go on.
No, I'm saying interesting.
Yes,
Interesting stuff.
yes. No new brain cells are formed after birth. They just increase in size. So, which is why we always say that keep your brain cells though. So, essentially, I was just trying to summarize why it's so important for us to actually give our kids adequate nutrition, not just for physical growth, but specifically for brain growth, because the brain is really what is going to help the child figure out life, from start to finish.
Right, right. So I was going to we're going to move from this brain development situation, even though we'll take questions later on, any questions that the audience might have. So you can drop your questions in the chat box and then we will come back to those. But let's move on to physical growth. We started with mental growth. So let's move on to physical growth. So you mentioned we are talking about undernutrition. And yet there are some children, I personally wanted to know if it's possible for a child to not look or not weigh their actual, is it like body mass?
Yeah.
The right body mass for their age, and if nutrition is a factor in this.
Yes. So with undernutrition, yes, it's very possible for a child to weigh significantly less than what is expected for them for their age. So when a child has a low weight for their age, it suggests that the malnutrition is something that happened just over a short period of time. But when they have a significantly low height for their age, it takes time for height to begin to falter. It means that the child has not had adequate nutrition for a very long time. And so we generally measure weight and height, and those are some of the easiest ways to actually determine if a child is malnourished. So if a child's weight is significantly less than what we expect for their age, they are considered to be undernourished. If their height is also significantly less than what we expect for their age, then they are also undernourished.
Okay. So does this how do you factor in, and where do you factor in things like weakness? So maybe the child is like doesn't have enough strength. You know, children are energetic or are supposed to be energetic, and they're supposed to have energy. It's kind of through the day, things like that. So where do you factor in the child's inability to, be energetic, to carry out basic things, that a child is supposed to be able to do?
Okay. This comes under where we would discuss reasons why a child with malnutrition might be admitted. So we have something we call acute severe malnutrition. Sometimes malnutrition is so severe that the child actually needs to be admitted into the hospital. For such children, their weight for their ages are usually low, and then they have swelling of their feet because they lack adequate amounts of protein. And when the person lacks adequate amounts of protein, then there's a tendency for them to have swollen feet. And those children actually are also quite weak, uninterested in activities, and they are lethargic. But even before they actually get to that point, there are a lot of children that have what we call iron deficiency anemia. Now, iron is a very important micronutrient, a very important mineral when it comes to helping individuals think, process information. It helps red blood cells to actually also be built because it's an important pigment in the pigment we call hemoglobin. And hemoglobin is what makes our blood red. And without adequate amounts of iron, our blood is not going to be able to carry oxygen and nutrients from one point to the other. And so this means that children who lack iron, which is also a component of malnutrition, will be very tired. They will not be able to keep up with their mates and their colleagues whenever they are trying to play, whenever they are playing around. And so when a mother begins to complain that this child just doesn't seem to be able to keep up with play, they're just so tired, sleepy all the time, then we normally have to screen for malnutrition. And sometimes, even if their weight is actually okay, they might still have iron deficiency. And we call this hidden hunger, whereby the child seems adequately nourished, weight seems fine, height seems fine, but because they are not getting certain micronutrients like iron, like zinc, like iodine, then they have symptoms like weakness, skin rashes, an unusual slowness of thinking. And so malnutrition is not always obvious. We can have something that we call hidden hunger, and that is a real major problem here in Nigeria.
Oh wow. This is a big lesson to all of us. So now we've talked about all of this, and I would like to know, you've mentioned some nutrients while speaking. So I'd like us to go into this nutrition business, to talk about the role of milk in early childhood nutrition, because I know I have heard it since I was a child, how important milk is and all those things. But hearing you talk today about all of these things gives it a whole new perspective. So we'd like to hear you on the role that milk plays in all of this, in helping to, balance out this nutritional deficit.
Great stuff. So when it comes to milk and nutrition in early life of a child, first of all, milk is packed with nutrients. So we're talking about calcium, we're talking about vitamin D, we're talking about the B vitamins as well. So these nutrients, usually they can be gotten in a lot of things like fruits, vegetables, eggs, but a lot of children, their stomach capacity is such that sometimes they just want to just eat just a little and they have disappeared. They just want to eat something small, they'll taste it and they vanished. So milk is one of the ways in which you can offer a child a close to full meal, because in milk. And so milk is like almost a meal on its own. So if you offer a child a glass of milk or a cup of milk, then you are bridging that gap that they might have left from their picky eating ways, or not eating here or not eating there. And so that way, think about it as an investment. A glass of milk is an investment in their nutrition, especially if they are not getting the nutrition because they are picky eating. As a matter of fact, even in this economy, actually, a lot of parents, even if the children want to eat, they are barely buying a lot of the things that they might want to actually give, by the way of fruits and vegetables and the other things that we always say are very wholesome. And so milk is a nice way of bridging that gap. And so milk is really important in early childhood nutrition because it's like a meal on its own.
Okay. So, what would you say constitutes quality milk?
So, quality milk is milk that essentially is that the process of production is to the most stringent quality assurance measures. Quality milk should contain these things: protein, it should contain fats, and it should contain some sort of energy producing molecule like lactose. Also, quality milk is fortified, because these days we know that yes, while milk without any fortification is fine, and it's fine for adults, but for children we kind of would like for the milk to be fortified with vitamin D, with vitamin B, and with other vitamins and nutrients. And so that milk is actually high quality and is something that is desirable to be given to growing children.
Okay. So one of the other reasons why we're having this is because there's been an onslaught of what we know as creamers in the market now. And a lot of people can't tell the difference between milk and creamers. So we're hoping you can give us, from a science point of view, that we hope educates the audience, the difference between milk and creamers.
So first of all, let me just say that creamers are not milk. Creamers are not milk. Now, it really is very rampant and it's beginning to spread, it's beginning to become a pandemic, whereby people are substituting milk for creamers because they feel like they are a good alternative to milk. They feel like they are a cheaper alternative to milk. But at the end of the day, what are you getting? What is inside a creamer? Now, a creamer is comprised of things like sugar. Essentially is the dehydrated non-milk compounds. So non-dairy creamers do not contain protein. Non-dairy creamers do not contain healthy fats. They don't have any vitamins or minerals, but they only appear powdered like milk. So let me just look at a list of ingredients here. Just listen to this. So to replicate the mouthfeel of milk fats, non-dairy creamers often contain hydrogenated vegetable oils. Hydrogenated vegetable oils are never a good thing because they actually can predispose a person to heart disease. They can predispose a person to obesity and chronic diseases. Also, non-fat dairy creamers and whiteners also exist. Other common ingredients include solidified corn syrup and other sweeteners or flavorings such as vanilla, French vanilla, hazelnut, or Irish cream, as well as sodium caseinate, a milk derivative from casein that does not contain lactose. So essentially, there is nothing about creamers that is milk. It's hydrogenated vegetable oils, which we have begun to discourage because they are implicated in a lot of chronic diseases, and things like corn syrup. And as we know, corn syrup really is also another thing that is not desirable in one's diet because it can lead to obesity, it can lead to dental caries, and it is sweetened with things like sugar and other things that we don't necessarily want hanging around in our diet every day. So dairy creamers are not the best thing to use, and I think parents should begin to think about the investments that they're making in their children, such that you might think, okay, let me just get a cheaper alternative. But I get a cheaper alternative that has zero quality, zero benefits.
Okay. I meant to even ask about earlier before we got this far, when we were going from the mental development to physical development and the rest. I meant to talk about ask you, sorry, about immune functions in the body and how milk helps with that, with building immunity in the body of children. Yeah.
So when it comes to the immune system is a very remarkable apparatus in our bodies. And the immune system comprises of both cells and chemicals. So the cells are the macrophages, the white blood cells, the lymphocytes, while the chemicals are usually the antibodies. Now, both the cells and the chemicals, they are usually made from proteins and fats. So antibodies essentially are proteins. And so these proteins and these polypeptide chains actually are derived from amino acids. So meaning that if an individual actually has low amounts of protein in their body, as a person with malnutrition does, then the body is actually going to use the little protein that it can find to keep the person alive. It's going to try to use that protein to keep the heart going, to keep the person's metabolic functions going. It's just going to look at the immune system like as if, my dear, I don't have enough resources to give to you, so I'm going to channel my proteins into other things. And so the immune system suffers, meaning that when an infection comes along, the person is going to succumb to that infection, or is going to have a more severe infection than somebody who was adequately nourished. Now, how does milk come in here? Milk has a lot of protein. And so that protein is actually able to keep the child healthy and keep the immune system going, such that if a child is getting enough food, enough protein, including protein that they are getting from their milk, then the immune system, the body has enough protein to keep itself alive and still offer the immune system to make immunoglobulins and other important humoral factors that are necessary for the immune system to function adequately. I mean not just that, because people don't really think about the skin or the inside of the mouth as part of the immune system.
Yeah.
But the immune system is actually even our skin. We have immune system cells on our skin, and even the integrity of the skin, such that a child who is well nourished is going to have skin and collagen and skin barriers that are competent. And so if a child has a small injury, if they have a poor or low immune system, then those organisms can get into the skin and cause trouble. If they have a sore, an injury in their mouths, if they have a poor immune system that is not functioning properly because they lack protein, then they are more likely to develop more severe infections in their mouths or through their natural barriers. And so we always say, you know what, you can't compromise on offering children protein, which is why when we see children who have severe protein energy malnutrition, whether they seem to have an infection or not, the moment we admit them, we start antibiotics, because you don't know when an organism is just going to pounce on them, and you'll now have to start battling with one very severe infection. So milk is very important as far as offering the children protein to keep their immune system competent goes. But also, even things like, fortifying milk with, zinc, vitamin D, vitamin A is very important in helping the immune system to fight off assailants and insurgents.
Okay. Thank you so much. This is really, I can see the comments, so many comments, and people are already dropping their questions. And this is really enlightening. Thank you. So before we get to the questions in the chat box, I think my final question would be, could you tell us some ways to incorporate milk into daily meals for kids, and possibly not just regular meals, but like snackables and treats that children can enjoy? Some ways that we could put milk in there for them.
Okay, so Milk, some children, well, a lot of children might like to just drink milk, just straight like that. Some children just don't like it, and they're like, okay, you know what? Let's find a creative way of incorporating it into meals. And this is where the mom's corner comes in, because I'm sure the moms have extremely exciting and creative ways of
Yeah.
incorporating milk into the daily diet of their kids. Now, one of the easiest ways, of course, is putting milk inside pap. And that's a wonderful, easy way of doing that. And then any other beverages that the kids might be drinking, whether it's tea or any of the other beverages, milk can be included into that. Now, more exciting ways of including milk into the diet is actually making milk smoothies. So combining milk with things like apples or watermelon, and making it into a smoothie or a popsicle is another great way of incorporating milk into the diet of the kids. Then, those are some of the ways actually, and I'm sure there are a lot of resources that have great recipes for ways in which milk can be incorporated into the snacks and the meals of children. Actually, even certain meals, I know we don't eat it very often here, but there's this really nice milk and rice custard that people actually make.
Right. Like a pudding.
Yes. Yeah, like a pudding, exactly. Like a rice pudding that is made with milk, and they add a little bit of cinnamon, some sugar. It's really good, and a few nuts. It's typically, Indian, Middle East, Lebanese, sort of thing. But it's nice. Try it. You never know if you like it.
Right. Sounds fun. I mean, I'm not even a child, but I would love to try some of this stuff for myself. Okay, so let's try to get to some of the questions. The
Great.
very first one I see here is, which of the vitamins in Dano milk is good for eyes? So over to you, doctor. Vitamins that are great for eyes.
Vitamin A. Vitamin A is the one that is particularly important for the integrity of the eyes. But luckily, vitamin A doesn't just do eyes. Vitamin A also helps our skin to look great, feel great, and actually also protects our inner barriers. That's all the lining of our tummies, on our mouths from invasion by organisms. But specifically for eye, vitamin A is what Dano milk is fortified with, for us to know that our eyes are well protected.
Okay, thank you so much. So someone is asking, if there is a particular time to give a child milk? I want to say no, but doctor, what do you think?
No, no,
Is there a
no,
specific time?
no. Well, in terms of when you say time, you might mean in terms of age. If you say time, you might mean in terms of time of the day. In terms of time of the day, no, there isn't any particular time of the day when you say you cannot give a child milk. Now, what we generally say is that when it comes to offering children whole milk, that means that milk that is not modified, because you know that formula is different from milk, and you can give formula to a child that is less than 1 year. But in terms of whole cow's milk, please start from 1 year. Do not give a child that is less than 1 year whole cow's milk as a drink. But you can give them whole cow's milk when you have put it into food, mixed it just added a little bit into some food that you're making, maybe oats or something. But giving them whole cow's milk as a drink like this, wait until 1 year. But that being said, Dano milk can be given to a child any time of the day.
Okay, thank you so much. So let's see, there are more questions here. Okay, you've already answered this one. How old a child can start taking Dano milk? That's already been answered. Okay, there's a question here saying, can a child be diagnosed of hidden hunger without the physical symptoms you mentioned earlier?
So that's a very good question. The reality is that is why that hunger is called hidden. Sometimes the child may not actually demonstrate any symptoms, and they are deficient. It is only when the deficiency becomes really severe that the person now begins to show symptoms. So we always say, prevention is better than cure. So please, let's offer them great nutrition with Dano milk and adequate, balanced, varied diets, so that they don't fall into that thing of hidden hunger. Because for a lot of children, the reality is that the body is not functioning optimally. Okay, By the time they begin to show those symptoms I talked about, it's no longer hidden per se, but it means that the level of those nutrients in the blood has depleted to the extent that they are now showing symptoms. So, hidden hunger is hidden for a reason. They don't have any symptoms until water pass Gary.
Okay. So I want to ask, in addition to this, I hope Maya, Linda, Okusidi, I hope that answers your question. But I want to ask, in addition, is there any particular age where one has to watch out for this hidden hunger or symptoms related? Is there any particular age?
Yes. So as we know, in the first 6 months of life, the World Health Organization recommends that children should be exclusively breastfed. No water, no other thing. From 6 months up until 2 years, children should still continue to be breastfed. But at 6 months, they should introduce complementary feeds, which is solids or semi-solids to the child. In general, and while continuing to breastfeed, in general, children begin to develop this hidden hunger somewhere between 6 months and 2 years, especially if the quality of the nutrition that they are being offered is significantly reduced. And that is because between 6 months and 2 years is a critical period where they're making the transition from milk to solids. And so if they are not offered a wide variety of foods that are nutritious and that contain all these micronutrients, then they can develop hidden hunger during that time. And by the time they hit 2 years, by the time they're hitting 2 years, 3 years, then the symptoms of the hidden hunger begin to show. So we always say, you know what, get all the information that you can about successfully and safely introducing semi-solids to children between the ages of 6 months and 2 years thereabouts, so that that period can be maximized to prevent hidden hunger.
All right. Thank you very much, Doctor. Before we continue, this is a reminder to all the moms watching that the Dano Back to School activity is on until the 30th of August. So it's called Fuel Their Future, and we're just discussing now how if you don't start the fueling early on, there's problem ahead. So it's a very simple activity, very simple challenge. You can check out the mechanics on the Dano page, on Facebook here, and on Instagram as well. And do not sleep on the challenge. So let's check out more questions. So someone is asking here if the human body needs more protein than any other nutrient.
If the human body needs more protein than other nutrients. Okay. Yeah. So here's what it is. The human body needs, of all the three major nutrients, protein, fats, carbohydrates, the body needs carbohydrates the most. The body needs carbohydrates the most because our body needs energy to function, to move, and carbohydrates are easily digestible. However, the body needs adequate amounts of protein. So the most that the body needs is still carbohydrates. If you look at the food pyramid, you'll see that we always still say that carbohydrates should be half of the plates, the plate rather. Carbohydrates should be half of the plates, and then 1/4 should be vegetables, the other quarter should be protein. And that's because, especially for children, you don't want to give them more protein than they need because the kidneys have to handle more load than they require. So just take it as a guide. Let me just see if I can quickly draw it out here. So if you draw a circle and divide the plate into 3, carbohydrates, protein, fats. So I hope this is clear. So if you divide the plate like this for a child, this should be carbohydrates, that should be protein, that should be fats. Sorry, carbohydrates, vegetables. So carbohydrates, protein, vegetable. Let me put it as V, not fat. V. Veg. So carbohydrates, protein, vegetables. That is what a child's plate should look like. So half carbohydrates, then the remaining half divide it into 2, protein and vegetables. So but I find out that we're not really big on protein in this part of the world, because sometimes, you find out that the child plate is full of carbohydrates, and then the protein is the size of a safety pin. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. There's another question from Aremu Blessing asking if there's anything like too much milk for a growing child.
So yes, there is such a thing as too much milk. There is such a thing as too much milk, which is why there are recommendations in terms of what volume of milk a child should get in a day. And unfortunately, I don't have the figures offhand, but I think I'll be able to send it to the mom's corner, through my contacts at Dano. So there actually is such a thing as too much milk in a day. There are specific volumes. Let me see if I can do a quick check. And the reason why one should not give more than a certain quantity of milk in a day is that the milk, as nutritious as it is, you don't want it to displace the place that other foods are going to take. Milk does not replace quality nutrition from actual food, solid food. I'm talking about, the chicken, the beef, the eggs, the fruits, the vegetables, because as great as milk is, it doesn't have everything. And so the key is having a diet that is varied. Why milk is so good is that it's easy to just make. Just turn, and a nutritious drink is ready without any of the
Yeah.
So there is such a thing as giving too much milk. I'll just check the volume of milk for each day. Unfortunately, the problem is that a lot of these volumes that I'll say might not really make any sense to you until you sit down and look at them by yourself. But yes, there is such a thing as giving too much milk in a day.
Okay. So we're almost wrapping up this session. But a question from me to you, Doctor.
Yes.
While I ask the audience, if you've learned something, share with us, drop a comment and tell us what you've learned in the chat box. We'd love to see it. While the audience is doing that, Doctor, this question is from me on behalf of Dano to you. What's your favorite meal with Dano milk?
It definitely has to be akara. No, what am I saying akara? Okay. Moi moi. So it's definitely moi moi and pap. Moi moi, and there's one ginger pap that one used to make close to my house that time. So at the time you just scoop. So the hope is that it's Saturday morning. They've made moi moi. You have the ginger pap. You put the Dano milk inside, and then it starts to rain. And as it's raining, you are eating the moi moi, eating the akara, and then you are watching television, Nollywood movie. And then as soon as the film finishes, it's just to fall asleep on the bed. But yes, but it doesn't always happen like that, because on Saturday morning there are chores. Hey, yeah, come and do this one. Hey, yeah, come and sleep here. Come and sleep there.
I was going to say maybe Dano should be like a rainmaker too, so that by the time you get your pap and pour Dano milk in it, the rain will just get the signal. Oh, thank you so much. There's one last question we're going to take before we wrap up. Just one last question. Before that, Jesse Onyeoku, your question has already been answered. The quantity of carbohydrates for kids. So with the chart that the good doctor drew, it's supposed to be half the plate is supposed to have half carbohydrates. Then the other half of the plate is supposed to have vegetables and protein. I hope I got it.
Perfect.
Yes, I did.
Perfect.
Super. So that's the answer to your question, Jesse. So the last question we're going to be taking, since we're discussing nutrition, is with regards to how many grams of sardine and mackerel. So I don't know what teens can take in a week.
So that's really very. How many grams of sardines or mackerels can a child take in a week? That's really very technical. Okay, and this is more suitably answered by a nutritionist. But what I just say is that, and this is very, very technical. Children or anyone, their protein requirements is usually calculated based on their weights. And usually adequate protein intake is somewhere between 0.9 and 1.2 grams per day. Well, there's nobody that is going to be weighing fish, or he's going to be weighing mackerel. So what I just say is that, and I know that some people say that, oh, okay, oh, don't eat too much tuna, because they say that tuna, can contain some mercury and all of that. But I mean, those are really, really technical considerations. But since you mentioned mackerel, if you are going to vary the diet of the child, I don't expect that the child will be eating mackerel every day. So if Monday, the protein that you offer is eggs in the morning and then beef in the evening, on Tuesday, you can offer mackerel in the morning and in the evening offer chicken. On Wednesday, you can offer eggs again in the morning, then in the evening, you can offer something like prawns or seafood if there are no allergies. Then on Thursday in the morning, you can do maybe a plant-based source of protein like beans or maybe even lentils if we do lentils. And then in the evening, you can do something like, let's see, another type of fish. So it doesn't have to be mackerel. So it could be hake, it could be white fish, it could be red snapper. So it's really all about planning the meals, such that the child is getting a variety. That way, the child is not getting any particular thing too often.
Okay. Thank you very, very much. So we'll just we're about to wrap up the session now. Thank you, Dr. Renner, so much. This has been mind-blowing, very enlightening. Could you just take a minute to give us a summary of everything, like the Cliff's Notes?
Okay, so thank you, moms. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dando, for having me. The summary of the thrust of the conversation is that malnutrition is real and undernutrition is costly, in the sense that it has been proven by research that children who are stunted, children who have hidden hunger, are less likely to do well in school, are less likely to achieve well and get good paying jobs, and that leads to their own children having malnutrition because they don't have good jobs, they are not taking the right nutritional decisions for their children, and so the cycle of malnutrition and poverty can be perpetrated by malnutrition. That being said, the window of opportunity to make sure that children get the adequate nutrition for brain development and growth is from birth to 5 years, meaning that that is the window that we must all take advantage of. That being said, milk is a great way to make sure that children who may or may not have picky eating ways get an adequate amount of nutrients in spite of themselves. With that being said, dairy creamers are not a suitable alternative to milk for children that are growing because they do not have the essential fats, they do not have protein, they do not have the carbohydrates, the calorie content, and the fortification with vitamins and minerals that milk like Dano has. So go for quality, go for nutrition, do not compromise, because nutrition is an investment in the future of your child. And so, with that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Renner. Thank you, everyone who joined the live. I saw some of you tagging your friends to join in. Thank you so much for that. If there's anyone here, any mom here who is not a part of our Facebook group, Mom's Corner, this is your chance to join. It's as simple as sending us a request here on Facebook, and you'll be part of the community, just like that. And finally, your last reminder for today to join the Dano Back to School activity. There are lots of prizes, though. Lots of prizes. You know Dano with prizes.
Yes,
so there are lots of prizes to be won. So visit our page here on Facebook or on Instagram. Get the full gist of how the challenge is going and fuel their future. Thank you once again, everyone, and see you at the next live.
Thank
Bye
you,
bye.
everyone. Bye.